Hello, hello, hello. How y'all doing today? The world of the book of the face. Think they got my big head in there. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. Give just a couple of minutes while I sit up and see if we can get anybody on parties with us. If not, the party must go on. Put there just in case I get long-winded. They're talking as my daughter running her mouth in there. You're way in here like she's sitting right beside me. All right. Just give about one more minute. I'm going to go and jump into it. It's got a whole lot to talk about and a little bit of time to do it. All right. What's up, Miss Ashley? Glad you able to make it here tonight. Hope you and Matt is doing all right. Seems like it's been forever since I seen y'all. We missed that one meeting last week, and man, it seems like I ain't seen y'all in forever. I guess it has been almost a month. That's insane. So I'm going ahead. I see a couple people in. I'm going to get started. Y'all know I'm long-winded, so we'll be here for a little bit, and hopefully everybody else join in as they look good. I don't know. I don't know what you said when I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, I hope you get to feel a little bit better. Hopefully, I get to see you tomorrow. So I'm going ahead and get started tonight for the night's lesson. Thank y'all for being here tonight. Of course, I'm John Stewart on behalf of Lost Sheep Ministry, Lost Sheep Minister on behalf of River Lake Baptist Church, sponsored by River Lake Baptist Church. And I thank you all for being here on this Monday night. I hope everybody is doing good. It's the Monday before Christmas. Christmas in a few days. What up, Daniel? Appreciate you able to make it here, man. Appreciate you. What's going on, Nate? I'm glad you're here. Miss Alicia, glad you're here. Miss Wookie, I'm glad you're here as well. And I appreciate all y'all for being here tonight. So again, I hope y'all having a wonderful Monday afternoon. This is the Monday before Christmas. Christmas right around the corner. Be glad when it's over so I can get some money back in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? But I'm appreciate y'all being here tonight. And we're going to have an important lesson tonight. This is something that we do all the time, that everybody do every day. And it's vital to our livelihood. It's vital to the way we survive. It's vital to the life we live. And that is making choices. So the lesson tonight, if you didn't see my Facebook chapter, we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 8 if you got the Bibles and you want to follow along. But as I look at this chapter and I go through this chapter, the overall thing, that's what I do. I read a chapter and I try to get like what's the overall theme. And that's usually the thing that I kind of go with as I put the lesson together. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being here. And so when I look at this chapter is going to be on choices. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go ahead and go with my prayer first, because I actually it's a pretty long introduction, because I really want to get into looking at choices and our decision-making process and how important it is to have wisdom when you make your decisions. So I'm actually going to start off with prayer, because the introduction is going to be pretty long. And honestly, I don't even know how much of the chapter I'm going to get into, but we're just going to see how this thing works out. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to jump into the lesson, all right? Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for everyone that's actually, we're talking about choices tonight. So thank you for everyone that's choosing to be here, Lord, to hear this word tonight. As I read through chapter 8, this is the overall theme that I saw, the importance of choices, the choices that we make, and how important it is. So sometimes we don't realize that the choices we make, we think are little choices, they can actually end up becoming big choices. And that's why it's important for every choice we make be a good choice. We've been taught that it's okay to make some bad choices. At times, you allow some. And if you make a mistake, that's one thing. But to willingly make a bad choice, that's a whole nother thing, because that puts you on a whole nother level, Lord, because you are being willingly ignorant and you're doing something you know you're not supposed to be doing. And that always leads to a bad situation. So I ask you just be with us tonight as we go through this chapter. chapter, Lord, as we try to go through this chapter. I know it's definitely going to be a part 1 and part 2 at least, as I was putting this lesson together. But it's just very important, Lord, because we all have to make choices. And of course, the most important choice is to have you in our life. And we got to realize there's a choice that we have to make every single day. If we're going to have you in our life, we're going to follow your commands and do the things that you will have us to do. So I pray as we go through this lesson tonight, Lord, and we go through this chapter of chapter 8 of Samuel, that we'll see how important it is to make the right choices, and how when we make those wrong choices, it can have a major effect on not only our lives, but the lives of everyone in the world. Essentially, it can affect everyone in the world. So I pray you just send your spirit down upon me as I bring this lesson tonight, that bring out these truths, and also as you send your spirit down upon the hearts of the men and women that are listening to this lesson. I pray they soak into their heart, and they see some bad choices they've been making, give them the wisdom to make better choices, Lord, and they see some things they can do to make better choices. I pray that you just let them take the get the conviction in their heart and give them the want to make those better choices, so they can get everything done they need to get done and get everywhere they need to be according to your will. We just thank you for once again for getting us the opportunity together in your word, and we say this prayer in your wonderful Son Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So I appreciate y'all for being here. What's going on, Miss Nikki? Glad you're here. Kelly, how you doing? Appreciate y'all checking in. Mr. Chris, I see you here as well. I appreciate y'all checking in with me tonight, and again, making the choice to be here. And that's actually what we're talking about tonight, choices. From the time the Lord opens your eyes in the morning, from the time you open your eyes and the Lord opens your eyes, and I had wrote down from the time we open our eyes, but in reality, we don't open our eyes in the morning, the Lord opens our eyes, because it was up to us. We get up every day, but there's some people that didn't wake up this morning. So from the time the Lord opened your eyes in the morning until the time you close them at night to lay down and rest, that whole day, that whole period of time, however long you're making choices. And then we got to understand we're making choices, and the choices that we make throughout our day is going to determine how our day is going to go. It's going to determine where our day is going to go. Now, some choices we make are big choices. This might be a day you got to go buy a new car. So you got to decide, is this the car for me? It might be a day where you apply for a job and you got the job offer. You got to decide, am I going to take that offer? It might be a day where you're going to buy a house somewhere. You got to decide, is this where I want to live? Or it might be the day that you want to put a ring on it with your girl. You got to decide, man, am I really going to put that ring on it? Is this really the person for me? We make these huge choices, all the time. But we also, throughout the day, we make small choices. We make little small choices like, am I going to skip breakfast? I'm running behind. Am I going to skip breakfast? I'm still going to try to get my breakfast in and be a few minutes late for work. I do that sometimes. What shoes I'm gonna wear, little stuff like that. What shoes I'm gonna wear? Should I shower before work or after work? I need all these things. You make these choices, and depending on what you choose and what you decide, depending on how your day gonna go, if you're gonna have a good day or a bad day. So the thing is, I know I said big choices, small choices, but what you got to realize is all choices require wisdom. All choices require, whether it's big or small, because even though those small choices, those things that you think are little small choices, they can actually become big choices. You get to think about a small choice, like for instance, let's say you choose the route you choose to go to work. You might choose, normally I go this way, I'm gonna go this way today, but because you go this different route, you end up running into a deer. Whereas you went your regular route, you might not have ran into that deer. Anything can happen because you chose a different, just the route you chose, put you on. And you can say the same with life. The route you choose in life, it determines how your life will go. The route you choose to get to work determines how you're going to get to work or you're not going to make it to work. You can do some choosing like, am I going to go to the store before work or after work? Seems like a small choice. But let's say you decide, well, I'm going to go to the store after work. Now, had you went to the store before work, you would have got in, got your stuff, and everything been good. But because you decided to go after work, it was a little dark, and it was a little later at night, but you went after work, and guess what? You walked in and somebody was robbing the store. And then, as soon as you walk in the door, they look at you, get spooked, and they shoot you, you're dead. And all you did was simply make a little small decision to go to the store after work instead of going before work. So you see, we got to realize every decision you make requires wisdom. And of course, what wisdom come from? Wisdom come from God. So in reality, whenever you make a decision, you should make sure that you're calling out to God and you're asking God for wisdom on those decisions. Because that's what this lesson is about, having wisdom in the decision you make. Because again, a little small choice will seem like a small choice can become a big choice. Let's say you live out in California or you go visit California. and you decide, man, I got these fresh red shoes with this fresh red sweater, I'm gonna throw that on, and then you end up in a Crip neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, if you know anything about California, you do that, that's gonna be that's bad business. You might not make it out of that neighborhood alive just because simply fact you wore red that morning. You know what I'm saying? Something that simple can alter your life and alter the life of everybody in your world. So with that being understood, you understand something we got to understand. We got to realize that we need wisdom in all choices. And the only way you're going to have that wisdom is if you choose to have a close relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people right now that are no longer with us because they made, what they thought were small choices. I think about, I don't know if y'all ever seen, there was this movie, it was called The Buddy Holly Story. And Buddy Holly was, and I watched when I was younger, but he was like a famous musician. I know he did something, I can't remember, it was rock and roll or whatever he did. But I remember, it was real cold. And toward the end of the movie, they had to make a choice on whether they're gonna ride the bus. They need to get somewhere, and some people was gonna be able to get on the plane. Some was gonna be able to ride the bus. And I think Buddy Holly chose the plane. They flipped forward or something like that. But either way it go, he was able to get on the plane. And because he got on the plane, guess what? He ended up getting on the plane crash. He ended up dying. You know what I'm saying? If y'all remember back in my day when I was growing up, we had this young lady, R&B singer named Aaliyah. So she sung with R. Kelly. Same situation. Getting ready to go somewhere. Choice she's made several times before. I'm pretty sure she was a superstar. She had made several plane trips before, so it was just a routine thing. And she chose to take a flight that day, and that time that flight didn't make it to its destination. So just a simple something like that, and she ended up losing her life. So again, you can take, when you look at the choices that we make, they can be big, they can be small, but every choice can be important. And a lot of times we just haphazardly make choices, no wisdom behind it at all. We make choices off emotion. We make choices because of how we feel about something. We make choices because the narrative said this is the choice we need to make. And we need to really sit back and start getting God more involved in our lives. So when we make these choices, we will have the wisdom to make the right choice. Now, of course, you might feel you're making the right choice and it end up being something bad happen. You know what I'm saying? That's just God's will, how it works. But sometimes we make choices just because, again, that's just how we felt. Because, they said, this person said this about me, so I made this choice to do this thing. And we make it all haphazardly, and it end up turning out bad for us. So we got to really start working on our relationship with God, so we'll make sure we have the wisdom to make these choices. You know what I'm saying? Another reason why it's so important to have wisdom in your decision making, not only because it can turn out bad if you don't have wisdom, but it's something we got to realize. Every decision that we make affects everyone. Now we got to get away from this. This world has taught us to be selfish. This world has taught us do what's best for you. Forget everybody else. You know what I'm saying? If it feels good to you, then man, go ahead and do it. Forget what everybody else. They ain't putting they ain't putting food in your belly. They ain't doing this. It tells you that. And to an extent, yeah, you can't, you make a decision, you can't make it based on the world, but you can make it based on how's it going to affect the people in my world. You know what I'm saying? Everything you do affects everyone. It's weird. And this is something I watched a movie called The Butterfly Effect, and it just talked about how you can. It was Ashton Kutcher. The original one was Ashton Kutcher, and he was going back. They had somehow invented this time machine, and they was going back, and they was like changing time. But every time they changed, like the smallest little thing, they made the smallest little different decision. It affected completely how the future turned out. I mean, they were just doing little things like they kept themselves from going here or there, but when they got to the future, the entire future had changed. You know what I'm saying? Because it was just these small little decisions. We got to understand, and it was called the butterfly effect. And you got to understand what's going on, Coach. Appreciate that, man. Merry Christmas to you as well. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, every decision that we make affects everybody around it. You can make a decision right now today that affect somebody on the other side of the world that you have no connection to, don't know you from Adam, but you can make that decision that can affect them. Like, for instance, you go out and buy a nice piece of jewelry, you know what I'm saying? Buy you a watch full of stones or a big necklace with the diamonds in it. And you know what I'm saying? To you just make a decision to get fresh. But on the other side of the world, to some kids that's being slaved down in these diamond mines, that's having their arms cut off because they don't want to work in these diamond mines and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because of your demand, because you're deciding that you want this jewelry, you're deciding because you can't live without this material thing. Somebody else on the other side of the world having to suffer for it. You see what I'm saying? So we don't realize that this world teaches you, I'll just do you. Don't worry about it. It ain't going to affect, but it does. And I mean, there's examples in the Bibles from it. If you think about, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened? You know, the Lord said, hey, that place is wicked, because everybody was choosing to be wicked. And he said, I'm going down there to check it out. Sent his angels ahead of him. And when he got there, what happened? The men of the town chose to what? Try to rape the angels. You know what I'm saying? So then the Lord told, and the crazy part was, all it took was 10 people making the right decisions, and that place could have been saved. 10 people, if 10 people in that town had chose to be righteous instead of being wicked, it could have been saved. 10 people. Now, I don't know, and they don't really say how big it was, but I mean, it was a city. It's called a city, so it had to be at least 300-400 for it to be considered, you know what I'm saying, a city, and just not a little village somewhere. And all it took was 10 people making the right decision, and that city, Sodom and Gomorrah, could have been saved. But they couldn't even find 10 people making the right decisions, and therefore the nation was destroyed. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand how important it is. Another situation, if you remember over in the book of Judges, kind of the same kind of situation. Book of Judges, there was I think it was chapter 18, 19, somewhere toward the end of the book of Judges. There was this Levite one time, and he chose to stop and rest one night in the city of Geba. And just when he was what's going on, Travis? Appreciate that, man. Exactly. That's cool. That's cool. That's like how God works. I appreciate you being here. But this Levite, again, he decided one night he was going to rest. He made a choice to rest in this town of Geba. And the funny part is, if you read the story, his servant that was with him actually tried to get him to stay somewhere else. But he wanted to be. He said, "No, I want to stay in this nation of foreigners, these strangers. No, I want to stay around my people." So he decided, instead of staying with the strangers, where he probably been safer at, that he was going to stay with his people. So he went and stayed in this town in Geba. And then that night, what happened? The men from that town, they chose to come to the house where he was at, beating on the door, tried to rape him. You know, so he said, instead of them getting to him, he pushed his concubine out the door. And they said, what did they do? So they took the concubine and they raped her all night to death. They raped her to death. I mean, that was brutal. They raped her to death. And then the next morning, he got up, the concubine was laying at the door dead. So he cut the body up and sent the piece to each tribe of Israel. And of course, he got everybody riled up. And the people that did it was the nation that did it was the nation of Benjamin. And that entire nation, of course, they ended up going to war with Benjamin because of what they did. And that entire nation was almost wiped out because of the decisions of just a few men in that town. It was the entire nation of Benjamin suffered for what these few men of Benjamin did. So you can't let the world fool you into thinking, oh, just do you, you'll be fine. It's not going to affect anybody else. Everything you do, every decision you make, it affects not only your immediate family, but it affects everybody in the world. It can happen. Let's look at Egypt. Look at Egypt. Another example. I got it wrote down. Look at Pharaoh. When the Lord had told them, Pharaoh, let the people go, let the Israelites go. What was Pharaoh? No, they ain't going nowhere. And the Lord just kept on throwing plagues at them, and he kept choosing to be harder. He could have easily just been like, all right, man, we're going after the first one. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're going to let them go. But no, he chose to be hard-headed. He chose to be hard-hearted. He kept on choosing to instead of letting the people go, doing what he wanted to do. He kept choosing that, and because he chose that, the whole nation suffered. The people had nothing to do with the decisions that Pharaoh was making, but yet they were suffering for it. They couldn't drink water because all the water had turned to blood because of what Pharaoh did. Yeah, I remember when it was the hailstorm when the Lord sent the hail. He said, hey, you better go get all your people out of the field. Go get all your people out of the field, because anybody that's in the field, anything that's left out is going to be dead. I'm sending this hail. So people all over that nation, their lands were destroyed. Their lives were destroyed because of what Pharaoh was doing. So don't get into that selfish mode thinking, oh, I'm going to do me. Because it don't affect everybody. Everything you do affect everybody. And that's why wisdom has to be applied to the decision making, because when you don't have wisdom, like we look at Pharaoh, he didn't have wisdom. We look at the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, they didn't have wisdom. And when we look at the people in the town of Geba, they didn't have wisdom. And what happened? It turned out bad for a lot of people. But see, when wisdom is applied, when you put wisdom into a situation, you can take something and you can make it good. When wisdom is used in your decision making, something you can take a bad situation and make it good. We look at Joseph. That's one of my favorite stories, the story of Joseph. His brother did him dirty. They was jealous of him because he was his dad's favorite. So they was jealous of him, sold him into slavery. This dude did nothing. He actually was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing. And his brothers got jealous of him, and they sold him into slavery. So he went into slavery in Egypt, and he ended up landing in Potiphar's house, which was like one of the generals in the army. And he could have chose to be bitter about it. He even mentioned he could have chose to be bitter about it. He could have chose to be upset about it. Man, I wasn't doing nothing. Man, God, why would you send me here? But no, if you look at it, he chose to stay faithful to God. And what happened? Even though he was in slavery in Potiphar's house, he ended up being the top slave. Ended up running the man's own house, the whole house. Matter of fact, he said God had blessed him because of his faithfulness so much that dude told him, man, the only thing I got to worry about, he said, when you look at what he said about Potiphar, he said the only decision he had to make was what food he was going to eat that day, because Joseph handled everything else. So then Joseph doing good, it's going good. He stayed faithful. Then what happened? Potiphar's wife see him. She come at him, trying to hook up with him. And he tell her he made the right choice. No, man, he said, man, my master's made me master over everything. He said, he's giving me everything except for you. He said, so I'm choosing not to mess with you. But she just had to have him. And then she ended up, caught him one day, caught him slipping in the house one day, tried to hook up with him, and he wouldn't do it. So, he ran, but she took his shirt, told her husband that he tried to rape her. So next thing you know, even though he did nothing, got thrown in prison. Once again, he could have chose to be bitter about that situation. He didn't do nothing wrong. He could have chose, he was already a slave, and he had even accepted being sold into slavery, didn't make a big deal about it. Now he's in prison. He could have chose to be bitter, but what did he do? He didn't choose to get bitter. He chose to keep on doing the same thing he's doing, praising God. Praising God. Then what happened? Next thing you know, he in prison. He's running the prison. Because he made the choice to stay faithful to God, even though he was in a bad situation. He made that choice. Next thing you know, he's running the prison. So everything going good in the prison. Some of the, long story short, he ended up coming before Pharaoh and ended up becoming the second most powerful man in the world at that time period. Why? Because of the choices he made. He made the right choices. He used wisdom. God, I don't know why you put me in this situation. I didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. I don't know why you put me in this situation, but you put me in this situation. I'm just going to accept it. He chose to accept the situation that God had put him in. He was content with God's will for his life. And what ended up happening? He became the second most powerful man in the world and ended up being able to save the lives of the very ones that that did him dirty and got him in the situation he was in. Ended up saving his brother's lives, even though they did him dirty, and forgave and chose to forget him. They even came, man, he said, look, I forgive y'all for it. He said, what y'all meant for bad, God had meant for good. God sent me down here so I can save y'all lives. It wasn't what you did. Y'all did it, but it wasn't of you. It was of God. So he chose to see, he used wisdom in that situation. And because he used wisdom in that situation, not only did he save his life, not only did he get God's grace on his life, but he also saved the lives of everybody in his world. See what I'm saying? Because he had wisdom in his decision making. And we see that again. Matter of fact, y'all remember the lesson that we just finished up last week, how to obtain victory in Jesus. We saw that at one point, the Israelites had chose to turn their back on God. And because they had chose to turn their back on God, they was under oppression. They was under oppression from the Philistines. And then the moment when Samuel took over and they chose to get their heart back to God, what happened? They ended up getting the victory. See, because they had wisdom. Samuel, he came up under God. He came up serving wholeheartedly to God, and he was able to share wisdom with them, and he told them what they need to do. And that's what I share with y'all. All the things he told them to do, I told y'all. And they listened. They had enough wisdom to listen, made the choice to listen to Samuel, made Samuel their leader, and what happened? They end up getting the victory. See what I'm saying? So just like having wisdom and making decisions without wisdom can lead to bad. If you make decisions with wisdom, it can lead to good. And we all have to make choices every single day. And it's important to have wisdom in those choices because we don't know how they're going to affect the world. We don't know how it's going to affect the people in our world. We don't know how it's going to affect the world. We don't know how it's going to affect God's plan. That's why we got to go to God with wisdom. I pray all the time, Lord, whenever I make a decision, like even when I put these lessons together, Lord, give me the wisdom to make the right choice on which direction to go with the lesson. Because you can take any lesson in the Bible and go a million different ways with it. But I want to go the right way. I want to go the way that the Lord want me to go to help the people with the word that they need that night. That's what I pray for. And you got to pray for the head as wisdom. Because if you make the right decisions, man, so many people can be helped. I had a situation this weekend that happened, and it's all about choices. And it led a lot of choices led to this. So this last week, my auntie passed away. And she was on my dad's side of the family. And me and my dad's side of the family was not really close because my dad was never around. Now, when we was younger, we stayed, they lived like 2 blocks from us. So I was always over there. So me and my cousin, we had a good relationship when we was younger. But, as I grew older and my dad kind of distanced himself from me, I kind of distanced myself from the family. So I knew the aunt from when I was younger, but we wasn't really close. And then some of my cousins, we kind of keep in touch over Facebook and things of that nature, but we're not really close kind of thing. So when I heard she passed away, I was like, well, I kind of wanted to go to the funeral because, like I said, I did know her. I said, but you know what? I said, I see what, because I told y'all my truck, my transmission went on my truck. And I'm being patient, but I'm upset because it still ain't got, I've already paid for it, but it still ain't got fixed yet. And it's been almost a month. So I'm upset about that. So they told me they was getting it fixed last week. So I said, I'll tell you what, because I didn't want to, with Christmas coming up, I'm just paying $4,000 to get my truck fixed. I really want to spend the money on renting a car. So I said, I'll tell you what, if they get my truck fixed in time, I'll go ahead and go to the funeral. So, because the funeral was down there in Coldwater, Mississippi. So, talked to the lady. She said she wanted to get my truck fixed. I was like, all right, well, I guess I ain't going. I guess I'm not going to the funeral. So, I was getting ready to call my cousin to let her know that I want to come to the funeral. Then she reached out, before I had the chance to do it, she reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like for you to officiate the funeral. So, I'm like, so now I got to go because they wanted me to officiate the funeral. So, I'm like, man, now I got to go. So, I'm like, all right, what do I do? Do I tell her no, pass on it? But again, because of wisdom, because I know the way God worked, I'm like, there must be something God has for me to do down there, which is why he wanted me, because I had already said, and I told myself, if the truck ain't fixed, I'm not going. But then next thing you know, I get this opportunity to go down there and officiate the funeral. And I actually got excited about it because, like I said, it was my dad's side of the family, and there's a lot of people on my dad's side of the family that I don't even know. I got so many cousins and things, and we was down there. I didn't know who was family. I didn't know who was friends. I didn't know who was who. Because that's how much of a distance we had from their family. But because of wisdom, because I know the way God works, because I put my faith and trust in the Lord, I felt he was leading me to go. So I went on and bit the bullet, went on and rented a car, went down to the funeral. Decided to go rent a car, went down to the funeral. So I went down to the funeral, officiated the funeral, and just like I thought, I saw some of the family that I knew, a lot of ones I didn't know, talked to them, and I was thinking, well, maybe somebody gets saved kind of thing. And, and that didn't happen. So after the funeral, and it was my first time in Memphis that I had the opportunity to go soul winning on a Saturday. And I've never been soul winning in Memphis before. And I saw like, man, you know what? I'm going to go soul winning in Memphis. That's what I'm going to do today. But it turns out, by the time the funeral got done, and then we ended up having to go to the place they were burying the body, I had to go out there too, because we had to commend the body to the earth. And by the time we got through doing that, then the family like, well, you got to come to the repast, because it's basically like a family reunion for us kind of thing. So I was like, man, I'll do that. And I was looking at my watch like, man, if I go there, if it's not close and this don't happen, I'm not going to be able to go soul winning. And I really wanted to go soul winning. So they were like, well, it's going to be at our cousin's house. I'm like, man, I said, there's no way I'm able to get there and, get there, do the repast, hang with the people and get out and time to go soul winning. Because I'm not going to go soul winning. Now, up in this area, if it's kind of late and getting kind of dark, I might go soul winning. I'm not going soul winning to get dark in Memphis. I'm sorry. I love y'all, but again, you got to have some wisdom too. You don't put yourself in bad situations, because I like to go to bad neighborhoods. So, you know what I'm saying? So I was looking for the projects in Memphis. And, I would go somewhere in a bad neighborhood in Memphis to go soul winning. I'm not going to be over there once it get dark. And I knew that if I went to the repast, that I wouldn't be able to make it. But I hadn't seen my family forever, and I was still thinking to myself, maybe there's somebody, once I go to repast, I can talk to my family, I'll be able to lead somebody to the Lord. So went to the repast, so I got there, and they said it was going to be at the house. So I get there, And it turns out it wasn't at a house. It was actually in an apartment complex, a low-income apartment complex, which is where I like to go soul with it. So it was perfect. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So I was able to sit there and hang out with my family and, you know what I'm saying, do the replay. And I had enough time to hang out with them for a good hour or so. And then, of course, you know, my family, they like to drink and smoke and play cards. So, you know, by the time all the food's gone, people start leaving. They're like, hey, man, my cousin, he was got to mess with me. He said, hey, I know that the preacher gets some time off. You want to crack a beer and play some cards, but I don't drink or smoke anymore. So I like, nah. I said, man, y'all going to have at it. But I was going to play cards with him. Then I thought, I said, you know what? I'm going to go soul winning first. Since I'm in this area, I just go soul winning this area in these apartment complex. And then, you know, I come back and play cards with them later on. So I chose, instead of choosing to sit there with them while they drank and smoke and play cards, I chose to go out and knock on doors. And I tell y'all, man, I went to my car, grabbed my Bible. My brother was with me because he's also on my dad's side. Grabbed my Bible, and it was like a teenager and two teenagers and a young lady sitting in the car right across from where I was at. So I grabbed my Bible, go over and start talking to them. Guess what? They didn't know they were saved. So I ended up going over the gospel with them. So right as I'm getting through going the gospel with them, they decide they want to get saved. So right at the end of it, 2-3 other kids show up, teenagers show up. So they end up getting saved. So I end up getting 6 people saved at once. And right as I finished there, I saw another guy walking. I started talking to him. He ended up getting saved. So as I'm going over the gospel with him, right as I'm finishing up, a couple of other kids walk up. They want to hear what's going on because they seen us just standing in group. So y'all, I stood in about one spot within a 150 feet, 200 foot spot. You know, so just I moved within 200 feet of where I originally started, and just standing there over a period of about an hour and a half, I led almost 12 young people to the Lord. Just within that hour and a half. Why? Because I chose to do God's work. I chose, instead of, like I said, I hung out with my family. I got the time with my family. I did the officiating. I hung out with them for an hour or so. But I also chose to make sure that I do God's work while I was down here. I knew I had the opportunity to do it. And my cousin kind of messed with me because he said, man, I know the preacher end up, you know, I know the preacher get a day off. I said, I can take a day off. Won't you go and crack one open with me? I said, no, man. I said, I don't take a day off because the devil don't take a day off. He said, so what you about to do? I said, I'm going to go knock on some doors. He said, boy, that's one faithful soldier right there. And that's what you got to be. You have to choose to do God's work on a daily basis. You got to choose to not let anything get between you and doing God's work. You know, and like I said, when I got done, because the sun's not going, and it was getting cold, I was going to come back in, I was going to hang out with him some more, but I knew I had an opportunity before the sun went down to go out and talk to some people, and I'm glad I made that right decision, because now there's 12 young people that didn't know if they was going to get to heaven, that now can say they know for sure they're getting to heaven, because I went out there and I made the choice to go out there and still do the work. Instead of sitting there hanging out and playing and laughing and kicking it, I chose to get my work done, and 12 people got saved. See what I'm saying? That's important. It's important to do that, but you have to make these choices. And, you know, and the people, and like when I was sharing the gospel with the people, they have to choose. That's one thing I always point out to them. I always tell them when I'm going over the gospel, I'm like, you got to, you know, I always ask, especially with kids, I always ask them, like, you know what I'm saying, who sent people to hell? Because in the second one, it says, in Romans, I'm sorry, I misquoted. In Romans 6:23, it says, for the wages of sin is death. Just there are wages for good, there's punishment wrong, and the penalty for our sin is under separation from God in hell. And I always like that, especially when I'm dealing with kids, I always ask them, I like, so that, according to that, you know, I always make sure I ask them first if they're a sinner, you know, I explain what sin is, and they admit they're a sinner. I like, so you just admitted you're a sinner, so according to the second one, that means you got to go to hell. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I said, but guess what? God don't send you to hell. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. They said, God, I said, God don't send you to hell. I like, then they're like, well, who sends to hell? The devil. I said, no, the devil don't send us to hell. They said, well, if God don't send us to hell and the devil don't send us to hell, who sends us to hell? And I always, now, that's one of the questions, this thing I always pose to them. And some of them get it, some of them won't. But one guy, he said, we send ourselves to hell. I said, exactly. I said, we don't realize we have to choose whether we want to go to heaven or hell. God don't make that decision for us. The devil don't make that decision for us. We choose whether we want to go to heaven or we want to go to hell. You know, and I always put that to them. And they're like, man, I never knew that. You know, and again, I went over with them. 12 of them got saved. And it's important. So not only did I have to choose to go out and do the work, they had to choose to accept the gospel, obey because it was cold. It was the wind was blowing. It was cold. My hand, by the time I got done, man, my hands was, man, they was frozen. You know, but I stayed out there because, like I said, by the time I got through going to one, some other kids will see, like, what's going on over there? They come over. They chose to come over, and I chose to share the gospel with them. So that's what happened. And like I said, 12 people end up getting saved. And that's important. Not only me choosing to do the work, but them choosing to accept the will of God as well so they can get into heaven. And as it shows, it's important because a couple of weeks ago, I had the situation, or a couple of weeks ago, I was in this town up here called Brewston. And about July of last year, I was in that town and I went to these apartments over there. And I met this older lady. She had some health problems. And it turns out she was an older lady. She had some health problems. Matter of fact, she was coughing and hacking and stuff when I was trying to share the gospel with her because she said she wasn't saved. So she ended up allowing me to share the gospel with her. And, she was coughing and hacking and stuff. And I shared the gospel with her. She ended up getting saved. So that was July of last year. So just a couple of weeks ago, my brother was in a basketball tournament and it was in that same town. Now, with the time the tournament was going to end, if I didn't go soul winning early, I wasn't going to be able to because by the time it was going to end, it was going to be dark. So, but he had to be there an hour early. So instead of me just deciding to making the choice to sit at the gym and play on my phone or whatever, I made a choice to go out soul winning. And that's what I did. So I went back to those same apartments I had went to the year before. And I knocked on the door of the lady that led the Lord. I was just going to check on and see how she was doing. So a guy came and I talked to him and I heard the lady in the background. I thought that was her. And I'm like, well, I was here about a year or so ago. Is that her? And I'd just like to say hello. And he was like, oh, no. He said, no. He said, I just moved here. He said, this is my girl. I moved here like 9 months ago. He said the lady that was in the apartment before me, she passed away. Turns out, sometime, I don't know exactly when because nobody knew the exact date, but sometime within a few weeks after I stopped by there and knocked on her door and led her to the Lord, and she chose to choose the Lord, chose to accept Jesus Christ as Savior, she passed away within a few weeks after I led her to the Lord. See, had she chose to not let me share that gospel with her, or she chose not to accept that gospel, she might be dead and in hell right now. But because she chose to allow me to share the gospel with her, and she chose to accept the gospel of Jesus Christ and accept Jesus Christ as Savior, now she's in heaven. Not even, again, a few weeks, I don't know the exact date, but they said a few weeks after, because like I said, I was there in July, that guy had been there for 9 months, and he said he don't know how long the apartment was vacant before he moved in. So sometime in a matter of weeks after I stopped by that lady's house, I was being obedient and made the choice to stop by the lady's house and share the gospel with her. She made the right choice to accept the gospel. She got saved, and then she ended up passing away. So again, our choices are important. The choices we make are important. That's why you got to have wisdom in your decision making, because when wisdom is applied, good things can happen, and when wisdom is not applied, bad things can and usually do happen. Good things can and will happen when you use wisdom, and bad things can and will happen when you don't use wisdom. But to get wisdom, even that's a choice. How do you get wisdom? How do you get wisdom? That's a choice, because what is the source of wisdom? What does wisdom come from? Wisdom comes from God. If you look on Proverbs, what does it say? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So you have to choose to get wisdom. That's another choice you have to make. So everything that we do is built on choice. Our life, where we at in life, the things we have in life, our situations in life, where we have drama and chaos in our life, all those are based on choices that we make in our life. So if you have to want to get wisdom, you have to choose wisdom, and the only way you can get wisdom is having a close relationship with God. That's a decision, and we don't realize that. I was talking about earlier when I first talked about how from the moment we open our eyes to the moment we go to sleep, we make choices all day. And we don't realize those choices that we make in that whole day is determine whether we're going to do God's will and we're going to not do God's will. It's going to determine if we're going to have a close relationship with God or not. We don't realize we have to make that choice every day. Every day you get up, you have to make that choice if you're going to have a relationship with God that day. Every day you get up, you make the choice, am I going to spend some time and read my Bible today? I'm going to set some time aside to read my Bible every day, today. Every day you wake up, you have to make a decision. Am I going to set some time aside for prayer today, or I'm going to let the day just get away from me and do everything else except for pray? You got to do that every day. Every day you wake up, you have to make the choice. Am I going to look for an opportunity to tell somebody else about the Lord every day? That's a choice that you make every day. You have to choose to capitalize on those moments that the Lord put you in where you can glorify and honor Him. Those are choices that we make every day. So every single day that we make choices whether we're going to be close to God or away from God. That's something you have to do every single day. And y'all notice I always talk about that all the time, being consistent. You have to choose to be consistent. It's not going to just happen. It's not going to, you're just not going to be consistent just naturally, because naturally we always want to do what we want to do. And 9 times out of 10, what we want to do is not what God wants us to do. We have to choose to follow God's will for our life every day. You have to choose if you're going to spend time with God every day. You have to choose if you're going to be in a situation where you hear godly truths every day. Y'all are here right now because you're choosing to be here. Y'all don't have to be here, but you chose to be here. You know, and y'all might have noticed when we first started off, we had like 8 or 9 people in here. Now I see 2. And of course, sometimes it go back and forth. But y'all watch these videos, y'all see the number goes up and down. Why? Because people are making choices. Some people choose to stay here for the whole lesson and listen to the whole lesson. Some people choose to get on it and listen for a couple of minutes. Some people choose to just scroll past it and don't look at it at all. You have to make those choices if you're going to be in those godly situations. I appreciate y'all that's choosing to stay with me the whole time. You know, I appreciate the ones that's looked in for a couple of minutes. Maybe the Lord will touch their heart and they'll come back later on. But you have to make those choices. You decide whether you're going to have a close relationship with God. And that's a choice that you have to make every single day. And these are the type of choices that you have to make to be able to obtain wisdom. You have to be able to make the choice to spend time with God every day. You got to make the choice to be whether it's God or truth. You got to make a choice to spend time in your Bible. You got to make the choice to spend time in prayer. You got to make the choice to go out and do the work that God has for you to do, telling other people about him. These are all choices that we make every day, and depending on what choice we make, it determines whether we're going to have a close relationship with God, which determines if we're going to have wisdom. And the wisdom is what we're going to need to make those decisions. But we don't choose, when we choose our own way, a lot of times what we do, instead of choosing the way God wants us to go, instead of choosing the things that God wants us to do, we choose our own way. And we don't realize when we choose our own way instead of God's way, we're choosing death and destruction. We're choosing despair. We're choosing calamity. We're choosing chaos in our lives. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. I always see people that live however they want to do, completely ignore everything God had told them to do, completely ignore. I'm telling you something, the most frustrating thing to me, people that come to me for advice. They ask me for some wisdom. How should I handle this situation? What should I do in this situation? And I would tell them every single thing they should do, and I would tell them every single thing they should avoid doing. And you know what they'll do? They'll go and not do everything that I told them they should do, and they'll go and do everything I told them they shouldn't do. And then a couple months later, they come back, man, I don't understand why it worked out like that. Because you made the wrong choices. You didn't choose to do the things that you knew you supposed to do, the things I told you should do, you chose not to do them. And that's what happened to a lot of people in their life. They have all kind of chaos in their life, all kind of drama in their life, and the first thing they do is blame God for it, when in reality, you're the one that's making those choices that put you in this situation. Like a lot of dudes, you know what I'm saying, especially like from a hood and they grew up in bad environments. Yes, sometimes your environment can put you on a certain path, but you have to choose whether you're going to stay on that path or you're going to find a different path for your life. You know, because of my bad influence and then bad influence in my life, at one point, I chose to sell drugs. And at one point, I chose to turn my back on God. And because of that, I probably led a lot of people astray. But when God gave me the wisdom, when he came through and he called me and told me he has some work for me to do, I chose to give up that life to start this new life. This new life of serving the Lord. And because I've chose that, I've been able to lead several people to the Lord. Because I chose that, I've been able to help several people. Matter of fact, I was talking to one of my cousins, and like I said, I'm not one that I'm really close to, but we was talking, and she's like, you know, I be watching your videos on Facebook. She said, you just don't know. She said, I was just watching the other night, and I was going through some stuff, and I just happened to see that you was on there, so I clicked on it, and you said exactly what I needed to hear to help me. She said, you helped me, and you didn't even know it. She said, I'm so proud of you. I want you to just keep going forward and keep on doing what you're doing because it's helping. See, and that's why I choose, you know, I appreciate my boy, Mr. Vest. He said, you know, my diligence. I choose to do this every Monday no matter what. And y'all know, I'm telling y'all, it takes some work to be here every Monday. It takes some work to sit down and write these sermons and do the research and grab the Bible verses and all. That takes work. And sometimes it feels like it's worth it, sometimes it don't. I ain't gonna lie. But I choose to, no matter what movement I'm in, no matter how I'm feeling, that I'm gonna be here. As long as y'all willing to be here, I'm gonna be here. Even if nobody else is here, if it was a blank screen right now, I see nobody here, I'll still be doing this lesson in hope that somebody's gonna watch it later on. I choose to do that. You have to choose to do what God has for you to do. You have to choose. And that's what we got to understand. And those choices are important. Every choice you make is important. And that's why it's so important to have wisdom when you make these decisions. But the only way you're going to have wisdom if you have a godly influence in your life. If you have a close relationship with God. And that's what we're going to look over this next couple of weeks. Like I said, because this is 45 minutes in, I'm still in the introduction. I'm just about finished with the introduction, which I knew that. And that's why I told you. That's why I went on and prayed early. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at some choices that the Israelites are about to make. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, because it's been a few weeks back, and you faithful ones, you might remember when the very first lesson I did in 1 Samuel chapter 8, I think it was titled something like the beginning of the end. And I kind of explained to y'all that we're not going to see it till later on, till we get deeper in the book, the beginning of the end. But this chapter right here is it. This is where you're going to see the choices that they're going to make. That's going to really end up being their undoing. It's going to end up later on. It ain't going to happen immediately. It's going to happen on down the road, but they're going to make some choices in chapter 8. It's going to be some choices. They're going to make a choice in chapter 8, and it's really going to be the beginning of the downfall of the nation of Israel. And that's why it's so important, because we're going to see when they make these choices, they're not going to have wisdom. They're not going to make these choices out of wisdom. They're going to make these choices completely out of ignorance, and they're going to make these choices completely because they want to be like the world and want to be like everybody else in the world. And because they choose foolishness over wisdom, it's going to be the beginning of the end for them. So that's what we're going to look at over the next few weeks. I don't know exactly how long. It's a lot of stuff here. So it might be another one of those. We go 2-3 weeks through it. And I hope y'all just bear with me. But it's because it's so important to helping everybody see that every decision you make is an important decision. That's why it's so hard with being a parent, especially me being a father of 5. And then being the sole income breadwinner, I have to make choices every day. And I'm in a situation, and if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. I can't afford to make bad choices. You see what I'm saying? Like most people, they can make a couple of bad choices, make a mistake. Okay, we'll be fine. If I make a bad decision, the effects of it is going to happen immediately. If I make a bad decision, we can end up homeless. If I make a bad decision, we can end up foodless. We can end up without electricity. Somebody can end up hurt. Somebody can end up dead. So I have to be on my stuff. I have to make good decisions all the time. There's no margin for error. When you're a parent, you don't have no margin of error for your decision making. And that's a lot of pressure. That's something you got to do, and you're not going to be able to do it on your own. That's why you got to have that close relationship with God. Even though there's a lot of pressure, even though there's a lot of stress, I'm not stressed out because I go to God for wisdom in every decision I make. That's one of the main things I pray for. Lord, please give me the wisdom to make the right decisions. Please give me the wisdom to guide my kids in the right direction. Please give me the wisdom to lay the foundation down that they can grow upon. And please give me the wisdom. I put my faith and trust in God for him to guide me in the direction I need to go so I can make the decisions I need to make. That's really this family I have. I never imagined having a family like I have and being able to be here for my family and the whole come home and kiss your wife and go by the kids' room and see. I never imagined having all that. I didn't even know how to have that thing because I've never seen it before. But I just started following God. And when I started following God, God started influencing the way I thought. And God started influencing the way I made my decisions. And God started influencing the way I looked at the world and I observed the world. And just little by little, line upon line, precept upon precept, I end up piecing this little family together by the grace of God, through God's wisdom. And me and my wife, come this April, we've been married 19 years. Never thought, and it don't even seem like it. It's effortless because I made the right decision, because I made my decision based on the wisdom that God had given me. And that's what you got to understand. If you're going to make decisions, which we have to do every single day, make sure you start your day off with God, so that way God will walk with you through that day and he'll give you the wisdom to make the right decision. Because what you might think is a small decision, it's okay, it can end up being big. Because that's what they teach us. They teach our kids that you're young, you can mess up. You can mess up, but these kids can do some stuff now. Because, you think about it, y'all. They got kids right now making decisions at 10, 11, 12 years old, making decisions that they don't want to be a boy, they want to be a girl. And they go and their parents start getting these surgeries and these hormone blockers, and then they end up growing up and being messed up adults. A lot of them end up killing themselves because they made a decision and they didn't have the wisdom they needed to make those decisions. So wisdom is very important when you make your decision, and little decisions can become big decisions. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at some of the decisions that these Israelites are going to make, and we're going to see that they didn't have wisdom. And because of their lack of wisdom, they're really going to start their downfall in the decision they're making. So yeah, that's introduction, and we're gonna jump into it. I don't know how many of these points we're gonna get through, but like I said, I had already planned on this. This is why I told y'all earlier. That's why I went on and did the prayer, because we gotta understand decision is important. Like I said, we taught to be selfish. Nobody's going to be affected. Do you? And that's not true. And we're going to see that through. A matter of fact, we're going to see that in this story tonight as we go through 1 Samuel chapter 8. So if you got your Bibles open, I'm going to finally jump into. I'm going to do at least a couple of them, jump into some of these points, and we're going to see the importance of making decisions and the type of decision we have to make, and why it's important to have wisdom when we make these decisions. So, of course, I'm reading out the New Living Translation. For all those of you watching for the first time, I am a King James believer, but I read out the New Living Translation because this is for the Lost Sheep Ministry, and I want to make sure my people understand what is being taught. So that's why I read out this. What's going on? I appreciate that, Chavez. Merry Christmas to you as well. Appreciate you being here. So again, you have to make decisions. A lot of people, we look at this country and the divorce rate is high. And a lot of it is high because we made the wrong decision. We didn't have wisdom when we chose that person. You know what I'm saying? I remember back in the day, y'all gonna laugh at me. I remember back in the day when, I used to make my decision on who I'm gonna be with by how good the girl looked. You know what I'm saying? She got a big booty. You know what I'm saying? What her breast looking like? Her nails, the superficial stuff. And then until I grew up and got to where I am now and got wisdom and realized, like, man, you got to look at a person's heart. Especially you're going to choose somebody you're going to be with forever. That's why you got these people, these dudes have these baby mamas, and then they run, man, she crazy and all that, because he didn't use wisdom when he decided to hook up with her. You know what I'm saying? He was looking at the outside stuff. He was looking at the superficial things. And that's important. That's why if you look at our country and our kids and everything we see that's going on in our world now that bothers. If you're a Christian, if you're a Christian and you truly love God and you look at this world right now, what's going on in this world should be bothering you. If it's not bothering you, then there's something wrong with your spirit. It should be bothering you. And the sad part about it is, and when you look at it, everything that's going on, all this bad stuff going on, all this hatred that's going on, all this killing, all this is going on because of people making bad decisions. People are having wisdom in the choices they're making. If everybody used wisdom in the decision they're making, man, we could be living in utopia. But everything you see, when you see this bad stuff happening, you see these wars going on, when you see, the people cheating people out of their money and all this, it's people making bad decisions, making bad choices, making choices without wisdom. And as we get into this chapter, we're going to see it's important to use wisdom in your decision making, because if you don't, it can lead you down a path that you don't need to be going down. So we start off with 1 Samuel. We're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 8. So we start off with the first verse. It says, so as Samuel grew old. Now, y'all remember we was going toward the end of the life of Samuel. And y'all remember Samuel, he's been faithful. He's been serving the Lord since he was a child. You remember his mama couldn't have a child, and she prayed to God for a child. And she told God that if you give me this child, I'm going to give him back to you, which she did. She dedicated him. He worked in the temple, came up as a faithful man. He ended up being Israel's leader. So now it's toward the end of his life. So it says, now as Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, his oldest son. Joel and Abijah, his oldest sons, had held court in Beersheba. So number one, and this is going to kind of relate to one of the points that we had from last week, but a little bit different. But number one, the first thing you got to understand, you have to choose your leaders wisely. That's very important. As a nation, you have to choose your leaders wisely. We do not do that in this country. We choose our leaders based off who we like. We choose our leaders based on how we feel about them. We don't actually get to know our leaders. We don't get to know what motivates them. We don't get to know the things that they want to do. We don't get to know their policies. It's almost like being in high school, and choosing a homecoming queen. It's the same thing. We're a nation full of children. We choose our leaders off of popularity instead of choosing our leaders off the righteousness of their heart. And that's why our country is being ran into the ground right now, because we have a nation of leaders that have no backbone whatsoever. Most of them have no morals. They wouldn't do whatever it takes for them, whatever it takes to get a couple of bucks in their pocket, no matter how much that they have to sell us out, no matter how much harm comes to us. If it's going to get a couple of bucks in their pocket, they're all for it. Because we keep choosing the wrong leaders. We don't have wisdom when we choose our leader. And I'm guilty of it, just as anybody else. I'm guilty of anybody else. Matter of fact, I remember a few years back, Barack Obama won. He ran for president and he won, twice. And I voted for him both times. But you know why I voted for him? It wasn't because of his policies. It wasn't because, he had my best interest at heart. You know what? I voted for him. I voted for him simply because he was black. Honestly, I ain't say black because he's not really black. I voted for him simply because he wasn't a normal white dude. That was it. I had no clue who this dude was. I had no clue what he was about. It was simply a simple fact because he was black. That's the only reason I voted for. That's as far as I thought. And that is wrong. That is the wrong way to choose a leader based just on the simple fact he looks like me. He talks like me. He likes the things that I like, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? We got to look at his policies. We got to look. People absolutely hated Trump. They hated Trump. And I didn't vote for him the first time when he ran. But you know what I'm saying? But honestly, once he got in the office, I started looking at it. And he was honestly the first president I've ever seen to get in there, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do. You might not have liked the things that he said he was going to do, that he did, but he did everything that he said that he was going to do, he did it. And people, we hated him for that. You know, he got ran out. They tried to impeach him. How many times they tried to impeach him? They tried to get rid of him. And you know what I'm saying? When he was in office, man, it was so much, our country was doing so much better. The unemployment rate in the black neighborhoods was down, the lowest it had ever been. You know what I'm saying? And people, they called him racist. They called him everything but a child of God because he actually did the things he was supposed to. And it's so weird because us black people, we've been programmed, we've been taught that you have to choose Democrat. You have to vote Democrat. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this, I'm not Democrat or Republican. I go, again, what up, Justin? Appreciate you being here, brother. Been a while. I hope you and your family doing well. You know what I'm saying? I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'll tell you that, even though I'm talking this, I go with what's right. I go, again, I've learned to look at their policies. And like I said, most black people, we are diehard. We vote Democrat. That's it. You black, you vote Democrat. And we don't realize that if you take a list of the things that Republicans, you know what I'm saying, what they stand for and the kind of policies they put out, and you look at the policies and the things of Democrats, we have more in common as far as what we believe and the things that we hold dear. We have more in common with Republicans than Democrats. And we don't even realize that. And it's funny, like they always call the Democrat the racist party. I mean, the Republicans the racist party, and we don't even realize. If we knew history, again, if we had wisdom, we would know that the Democrats were actually the Ku Klux Klan was extreme party of the branch of the Democrats. And we don't even realize that. If you look at people always want to throw up, they want to throw up 40 acres in a mule. You know, you get black people, they'll mention that, where's my 40 acres in the mule? Where's my 40 acres in the mule? Guess what? It was the Republicans that suggested to give black people, when they freed the slave, to give black people the 40 acres in the mule. It wasn't the Democrat. You see what I'm saying? Why is it so we so stuck on supporting this Democrat? Because the Democrats give us stuff. You know what I'm saying? The Democrats are the one that gives us the food stamps, that gives us the welfare, you know, and we don't realize by them giving us stuff, then it's actually making us weak because it's keeping us from getting out and getting it on our own. You know, and we get mad at the Republicans because they want to take it away, and they're not want to take it away because they want you to suffer. They want to take it away because they want you to be able to have the strength to get it on your own. You give them it's the old adage or the saying or whatever it is. You know, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. And that's what they try to do. They try to teach us, hey, if we keep giving you stuff, you're going to always be dependent upon us giving you stuff. So if we start taking some of this stuff away, you're going to have to get it on your own. I ain't going to lie, y'all, man, when I first got this job I'm at now, it was the first time that I, as an adult, that I wasn't able to get food stamps. And the first time I went grocery shopping and using cash, oh my goodness, it almost broke my heart. I was like, oh Lord Jesus, where my food stamps at? Oh, it almost hurt my heart. I mean, it took some getting used to. But now I ain't had food stamps in 9 years. Been at the job. Matter of fact, it's January 6th, make 9 years, and I ain't had to depend on them. I thought I was gonna die without them food stamps when I first did and going to the store. You know, and we had to make some adjustments. We had to learn, like, hey, now that you got your own regular cash and our food stamp, you can't go, because I ain't realized, man, how extravagant we was living and eating, because we was eating off the government. We weren't eating off ourselves. But I'm telling you, when you got to put your own money to get them groceries, you eat a little different. You ain't gonna grab them Fruity Pebbles. You gonna grab the Dino Bites. You know what I'm saying? The off-brand Dino Bites. When you buying it yourself, you gonna change some things. You gonna learn how to make that money work for you. You see what I'm saying? But it's so taught, it's so ingrained in us. Matter of fact, Joe Biden even said, man, you don't vote for me, you ain't black. How you have this old white dude tell me that I ain't black if I don't vote for him, kind of thing, you know? But they use that to ingrain us. And if you don't have wisdom, you see what I'm saying? If you don't have wisdom, then guess what? You'll fall for stuff like that. You'll fall for that. That's something our black culture. You know, a lot of things that I've looked at. I actually done a song. I wrote a song called "Is It 'Cause I'm Black?" And it's about black culture and how, yes, white people have done their share of doing us dirty to keep us down. But honestly, most of the stuff that keep us down nowadays and in these days and time is stuff that we do to ourselves. It's stuff because of our culture. The whole no snitch, the don't go to school, that's the white man's knowledge, and all that stuff. It's stuff that we teach in our community, the stuff that we ingrain in our kids that keep us from really elevating. You know, hate on each other. You know what I'm saying? Hate each other. Oh, you see another brother, if he doing better than you, hate him. Instead of working with him to get to where he at, hate on him. You know, because in the black community, I've noticed it's not about, oh man, that guy's coming up. Let me see if I can assist him coming up and maybe he'll bring me up with him. It's like you got to be number one or you nothing in the black community. And I've been working, since I've been working for almost 18 years as a chemist. So I've been working with a lot of white people, and I see they do things differently. You know what I'm saying? They won't get the boss. Yes, they want it. They want to get to where he's at, but they not gonna hate on dude. They gonna befriend the dude. You know, to pick his brain. You know what I'm saying? Letting him take them under the wing, and then next thing you know, they either right below the guy or the guy in a return, and bam, they get their spot. They do it different. But us, if we ain't number one, we ain't nothing, because we don't have wisdom. And we do the same thing with our leaders. We let them know. Like I said, I'm guilty of it myself. The only reason why I voted for Obama is because he was black or half black. You know, that was it. He wasn't a normal white dude that was running. He was something different. That's why I voted for him. And if you look at the policies that he put in place and you look at the things that he did while he was in office, he didn't do anything for the black community. And I know I'm probably going to get cursed out and called all kind of coon or whatever because I said that, but you got to look at facts. You got to apply wisdom to a situation. He did nothing for us. Matter of fact, and the blackness in me can't even believe I'm saying this. When Trump was in office, and again, you apply wisdom and research, when Trump was in office, he did more for the black community and the nation of black people as a whole than Barack Obama ever did. Barack Obama, all he did was toe the line. He told the same line that they had been going. Trump actually started changing stuff, and the stuff he was changing. I remember when he was in, man, even the money I was making at my job, it went up because of the policies and stuff that he put in place. I was bringing home more of my paycheck, and now that he's got out of office, it went right back to the same. You see what I'm saying? Right back to the same. And that's what we got to understand. We got to choose our leaders wisely. We got to stop choosing our leaders off of popularity contest, because that's all it is. You know what I'm saying? I like him. I like his name. He got a good smile. You know, every time the elections and all that stuff come around, everybody out kissing babies and they out at the rallies and you even saw Joe Biden taking a knee with folks and posing and all that. They do all that stuff and they fool you because you don't have no wisdom to see that, man, this is all a facade. We got to start looking at stuff with wisdom, because the people that leads us is important. The leaders that we have now is running this country to the ground, and the reason why they're in there because we choose. Why do we always got to choose white people? We automatically associate money with success, and we're like, well, they rich, so maybe if we put them in office, they're gonna make us rich. When in reality, they rich, and we put them in office, and they just gonna keep on making themselves richer, because they stay richer because we ain't rich, because we have to work for them to make them rich. And we don't see that because we don't have wisdom. And that's why wisdom is so important. It'll open your mind up and you'll start seeing stuff like that. Like, hold on, man, this is all a game. Like with politics, I vote You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna let y'all know right now, I have no faith in our government whatsoever. And I don't care who's, I don't care if Biden's in office, Trump is, I don't care who's in office. I have no faith in our government whatsoever. The only reason why I vote is because of the people before me, my forefathers, ancestors, whatever you want to call them, because they felt it was so important that they gave their life for me to have the opportunity to do so. And it would be disrespectful for me, you know what I'm saying? They used to go to the counters and sit down and get spit on and beat and water hosed and lynched so they can do this. And I have this freedom and I don't go and exercise it. So when I exercise, I do exercise it, but I still exercise it with wisdom, knowing, yes, I'm making these choices, but at the end of the day, they're going to put whoever in their office they want to. Y'all remember with Bush? No, both times George Bush won, the last Bush, both times he won, it was some screwy with the election. Both times. The first time, okay. Second time, the same thing happened because they put him in there. See, I got wisdom. See, it's all a game. It's all a game. And if you don't have wisdom, you won't see the game. So we keep on following this cycle of electing these same people that really and truly don't have our best interests at heart. Everything they do is going to help them out. It's going to help their buddies out. It's going to help them to stay in office. It's going to help them keep putting money in their pocket because we're not putting the right leaders in there. And if you go in there and get the right leaders, all they're going to do is run them out. Look what they did to Trump. They tried to impeach him twice. And neither time was successful, which shows you he wasn't doing nothing. It's the fact that he wasn't towing the line. He wasn't following along in the program. He was bucking the system. And he was telling us, I remember I saw this one interview, he was doing a debate with Hillary, and they was talking about the tax, he was talking about taxes and all that, and how the system is broken. And the dude, he asked me, and you think about it, this is really ballsy, because the dude asked me, because Trump was going on about the tax system is broken, and blah, 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 need to be reformed and everything. And he was like, Mr. Trump, how do you know it's broken? He said, because I used it. He said, because I've done it. I've gotten by without paying taxes. I've made money on that. You know what I'm saying? He said, I've used it to my advantage. That's how I know it's broken. I know the loopholes. I know I use it. And he said, Hillary, and I know she's going to say something about, me doing that, but the same people that's donating to her campaign doing the same thing, her same buddies doing the same thing. He said, that's why I know that it need to be reformed. And they couldn't say nothing. But he said, I used it. He kept it 100. And you think about this kind of ballsy, but he kept it real. You see what I'm saying? Because he was doing what he's supposed to do. And that's what we got to do. We got to choose we got to start looking at our leaders' heart. Because it's important, because in whatever direction the leaders are going to go, we're just going to follow. The majority of people going to follow. I ain't going to say everybody. Because, you think about when the whole COVID thing, a majority of people, they went right on and got it. Some people got it, some people didn't. A majority of people went right on because they said you should get this thing. We had no information on it whatsoever, no research on the long-term effects. They put this stuff together less than a year and just started forcing everybody to take it. And everybody, we immediately divided. You had the people that got vaccinated and the people that didn't get vaccinated. Immediately, we start hating on each other. Start talking, oh, you unvaccinated, you just a terrible person. You know what I'm saying? Then the people that unvaccinated, oh, you get vaccinated, you stupid. Right? We went right toward hating each other because our leaders was telling us, oh, this is what you should do. They were shutting the cities down, shutting down our economy for weeks, months at a time. And the stuff is still, the exact same stuff that was happening still happened. See, we were following the wrong leaders. And the reason why we followed the wrong leaders, because we didn't have the wisdom that we needed when we chose them in the first place. And we got to get away from that, man. When you go out and vote, find out what these folks believe in. Look at their policies. Don't just, oh, he's a Democrat, so I'm going to vote for him. Oh, he had this superstar came up and said we should vote for him, so I'm going to vote for him. You need to get there and find out for yourself. Find out what do they believe. If you feel a certain way on abortion, find out what that person, how he voted or how he would vote on abortion. If you feel a certain way about same-sex marriages, find out how they feel about it. How would they vote on it? Is they going to legalize it and push it more, or are they going to pull back on it? If whatever issue that you got, the way you feel, you need to find out how they feel and use wisdom to select your leaders. Because if you choose the wrong leaders, then your country gonna go in the wrong direction. And that's why our country is in the way the disarray now, because we got the wrong people leading this country in the wrong direction, and we just keep on towing the line, keep on following the same people over and over, the same old rich white dudes or Jewish dudes or whatever, same old rich people that's getting there and they fattening their pockets off of our misery, making money off our misery. And they're just going to keep on doing the same until we decide to have wisdom and put the right people in office for the right situations. So you got to be important, because we see here, it says Samuel grew old. He appointed his sons to be judges over Israel, Joel and Abijah. And his oldest sons held court in Beersheba. See what I'm saying? He did that. He didn't have, and again, Samuel was a wise dude, but that wasn't a wise decision. And I'm going to show you why. Because check out the next, what it says next. He said, but they were not like their father. See, the only reason why he put them in the office, because they was his sons. They was his sons. But obviously, if he's any kind of father, he spent any time with, like, I know my kids. I know my kids, and I know if there's certain things that I need to get done, I know which kid to put on that thing. And I know which kid or not. If I put him in here, he'll do good at it. If this situation arises and I choose this son for it, he's not going to be good at that. He's not going to be successful. I know my kids. So if he knew his kids, he probably knew that they were scoundrels. And they were going to see these next couple of verses. That's why I said they were not like their father. They were scoundrels. And he knew that, but yet he chose to put them in office anyway. And because he made the decision to put them in office, they're going to end up leading the nation of Israel away from the Lord. The people, they're gonna get to the point, because of the things they're doing, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of the story, but because of the things they're doing, they're going to end up making people not even want to have a relationship with God anymore, because of the action they're going to be taking. Because it says right here, but they were not like their father. So it shows you, now when you heard that he put his sons in charge, you would think, oh, because he raised them right, they had the same morals that he had, they had the same work ethic that he had, they did the same thing he was doing, that's why he put him in there. But according to the next line, it shows you, it said, but they were not like their father. He didn't use wisdom when he chose them. He chose them simply because they were his sons. See what I'm saying? So that's why I say, number one, you have to choose your leaders wisely. And number two, it says, but they were not like their father. So number two is this. You have to choose to accept or reject the wisdom that you've received. You have to choose to accept or reject the wisdom you've received. Every single day that we live, every single situation we go through, good or bad, we should be learning stuff from it. We should be learning. So there are people in your world that tell you things all the time. There are people in your world that tell you things all the time. There are people in your world always giving you advice, and you have to choose. You have to have enough wisdom to discern to choose, am I going to follow this advice, or I'm going to reject this advice? You have to choose. So we see here, again, we know Samuel. We know Samuel was a good man. We know he was a godly man. We know he loved God. He served God his entire life, and now he got these boys that seem to be scoundrels. Now, I guarantee you, they're not scoundrels for like I'm trying. Dad just didn't care. He just let them do what he want. He raised them the right way. I guarantee you, he raised them the right way, but they chose to reject the wisdom that father gave them. They chose to reject the way their father tried to bring them up. That's one of the hardest part as a parent is, going through life, working your butt off to get your kids in a better situation, doing everything you can to teach them what they need to know to survive in this world, only to have them reject the wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That's something I dealt with. Y'all heard me talk about my boys all the time. I've dealt with that. With my boys. I did, like I said, I'm not perfect by no means. My family ain't perfect by no means. That's why I can preach so good, because they keep me going through some stuff, and I learn from that stuff. But you have to choose to accept that. I have no doubt that Samuel wasn't a great father because he was a great man of God. So I have no doubt that he was a great father. I have no doubt that he didn't try to do his best to instill the godly principles in his children that he had. I have no doubt, but I guarantee you they rejected it. Matter of fact, I'm doing I got a lesson, a sermon I'm working on that I got the outline for it a little bit, and it's called "You're Not a Bad Parent, Your Kids Ain't." You know what I'm saying? That's what it's called. And of course, I'm working with the title, but that's what it's called. And I'm gonna go through the Bible and show you how many examples of good godly men that their kids end up being nothing. And this is one of them. There's one example I was gonna use, because it says they were not like their father. In other words, their father was a good man. He did what that's why I say they were not like their father, because we know, again, this is the 7th chapter we've been through, we know Samuel was a good man. We know he feared God. And we know he taught his kids, but his kids rejected it. And that's why you gotta, again, because of wisdom gonna be there, but you gotta accept that wisdom. What Cat Williams said in that one movie, he said you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. And unfortunately, that's how it is with our kids. We want our kids to have the best. We want them to avoid the same mistakes. And that's what I did when I raised my kids up. I didn't lie to them about how my life used to be. I didn't lie to them about the stuff that I did. I never tried to hide it. And I always thought that if I was upfront with them and open with them, that they would see like, hey, Dad is saying don't do this. because he learned from experience kind of thing. So we're gonna follow that example, and they didn't. They just did this very, like I said, they was some of the people I was talking about earlier. Everything I told them that they need to stay away from, not do, that's the stuff they did. And everything I told them they should do was the exact thing they didn't do. You know what I'm saying? They rejected it. And it was on them. And they went through a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, they back living in my house right now because they didn't listen when they went out for the first time, when they tried to go out into the world. They rejected all the wisdom I gave because they thought they could do it their own way. They thought they could do it themselves. We just figure it out ourselves. Instead of taking wisdom, we're going to figure it out ourselves. And see, honestly, the reason why, everybody say they proud of me and everything, and like I said, my cousins, I was talking to, they said, talking about how proud they was of me. And really, the reason why I'm at where I'm at right now is because of the grace of God and the wisdom that God gave me. I learned at a young age that when an older person tell you something, they telling you that from experience, and you should listen. Because we tend to, when we're younger, and especially the younger generation now, when an old person tell you, they don't know what they talking about, they just old. That's old. That's what they try to do with the Bible. The Bible, it's just an old book. It don't know what it's talking about. You know what I'm saying? But God changes not. The same stuff God didn't like back then, he still don't like today. We're just allowing it because we're making bad choices. So we have a tendency to do that. And that was the one thing that I think separated me from among my peers and growing up in North Memphis. And the reason why I am where I'm at not right now, and because the reason why they at where they at, it's not because I'm better than them or smarter than them, but I did have wisdom. I always had wisdom. So my grandma always told me, my grandma always told me, she said, you're going to be 30 before you turn 3. I mean, you're going to be 30 before you turn 13 is what she used to tell me. She always told me that because I was wise. And I learned, and I'll tell y'all this one what I really learned, like I was still a teenager, I was still a knucklehead, but I remember this one time I was 16 where I really finally learned how important it is. I'm like you, Ashley, I wish I would have listened before this is when I'm telling y'all, this is a little disgusting, but I keep it 100 with y'all. But I had to learn a hard lesson, and this lesson almost cost me my life. There was this one situation that actually the first time I had sex with a girl, I put like this consensual sex. I was molested as a child by some men and some women when I was a child. But the first time as a teenager when I had consensual sex, I'll never forget it. And it taught me the importance of wisdom. And so what happened, it was weird. The night before it happened, my grandma came, but just out of the blue, and it was so random. And even to this day, it was so random. Just out of the blue, my grandma came to me because I had at this time I was 16. I had my own job, and because I had my own job, I was helping out around the house a little bit. So my grandma allowed me to have my own room at the back of the house. So one night, my grandma knocked on the door, and like I said, at this point I had never had consensual sex with a girl before. So this is the fun thing on my mind. My grandma knocked on my door, and she had a bag full of condoms. And she gave it to him. And first of all, I'm like, what are you doing? Where do you get a bag of condoms from? Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? It was a little weird, but she's like, look, I know you're getting to that age. You know what I'm saying? You started looking at little girls and all that stuff. She said, all I do, she said, actually, like, if you do it, she said, I'd rather you not. She said, but if you're going to do it, make sure you use one of these. And she gave me, I'm talking, a whole bag of condoms. And I'm like again, I had never had sex before and definitely didn't think it was going to happen anytime soon. So I like, all right, girl, whatever. So I grabbed them, just threw them on my nightstand. So just threw them, I had a bag of condoms on the nightstand. The very next night, kid you not, the very next night, my cousin and her friend had went out to the club. And they ended up getting back in. I guess the friend's mom told her, like, she needed to be back home at a certain time, and she didn't get back home. So when she got back home, she couldn't get in. So she was locked out. So my cousin, they came, my room was at the back of the house. So my cousin, they came and they knocked on my window, woke me up. And she's like, hey, could she spend the night in your room because her folks locked out? Now this girl already had a crush on her anyway. She was much older. She was like at least 6 years, about 4, I say about 5 years older than me. She was older. I was 16. I think she was more around like 20, 21 or something like that. But I had a little schoolboy crush on her or whatever. So my cousin like, can she spend the night with you? I'm like, yeah, she can spend the night with me. So, and she was really tall. So I had a little couch in my room, but she was so tall, she couldn't sleep on the couch. So she was like, well, you mind sleeping in the bed with you? Hey, no, mind you sleep in the bed with me. So she's sleeping in the bed. I'm laying there and I'm wide awake now. And I'm like, I got a girl in my bed that I actually have a crush on. So I ain't gonna get into the gory details, but I'm like, man, what can I do? So I made my little move. It was so lame. Now I look back on it like it was the lamest move ever. But it worked. So, you know what I'm saying, me and the girl, we got to like kissing and messing around and stuff. And then like she was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, hey, yeah, I want to do this. So I never forget, I got out of my bed and like for some reason I had to get out of bed to walk around to get to where she was at. And I never forget it. I can remember clear as day. I looked at my nightstand, looked at the bag of condoms right there. And some told me, my grandma voice said, hey, you better put that on. And I'm like, man, I'm just trying to jump in. I ain't want to, you know what I'm saying, because I ain't never used one before. And I ain't want to look like an idiot and ruin the mood. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking like, man, forget that. I'm just going to dive in here. So, man, I end up hooking up with this girl, and you know what I'm saying, and did the do. And, man, I was in heaven, you know what I'm saying? Well, until about 3 days later, I went to take a piss, and it was on fire. You know what I mean? So y'all know where I'm going to. I ended up contracting STD first time I had consensual sex with somebody. And it was so weird because, again, the night before, got burnt. it was flaming, actually. Like I said, I'm burning my soul to y'all. So y'all be like, you nasty. But that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? And it was so weird. And so I ended up, of course, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was pissing, and it was burning like crazy. And I asked my mama, like, what's going on? And she called my uncle, and my uncle told me what to do. He said, you can do this, and if you do this and certain thing happen, then, you got gonorrhea. And I did it, and it happened. So I had to go to the health department, and they took this long needle and shot me in my butt full of penicillin or whatever to get rid of that. You know what I'm saying? And thank God it was something that I was able to treat with medicine and got rid of. But again, I learned a lesson. My grandma the night before had told me, if you're going to do it, use this. But, you know what I'm saying? In the moment, I was just like, man, forget that. I'm just going to dive in there. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say I almost lost my life, because that same girl, about 5 years later, she passed away from AIDS. It was a few years later after that happened, she ended up passing away from AIDS. So, man, I was so scared. Because, like I said, it was about 5 years after that happened, she passed away from AIDS. They say AIDS can be in your body for like 4 or 5 years before, it even shows up. And she ended up passing away from AIDS. So I was so scared, and I ended up going to get tested. Because from that moment on, I used a condom whenever, but I ended up going to get tested, and I didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? But I was that close. You know what I'm saying? I was that close. And she might have had it when we had sex, and I just didn't contract it by the grace of God. I don't know. But again, my whole point was because I didn't follow wisdom. I was given wisdom. My grandma said, don't do it. But if you're going to do it, at least protect yourself. I was given the wisdom, but I rejected it. And I almost paid with my life because of it. And that's what we do. We have wisdom all the time. We always, when I'm doing these videos, it's wisdom. I'm hoping y'all are taking these things in that I'm telling you to do, these suggestions that I'm giving you. I'm hoping you taking them in and taking notes and writing them down and using them and applying them to your life. Because like I said, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. And that's what I learned, a valuable lesson that day, that when somebody tell me something, and they telling me from experience, then I need to listen. When you having a relationship problem, don't go, if you married, don't go to your single friends and get advice on your relationship from your single friends. If you're married, go to another married person, married, and not somebody that's just recently married, somebody that's been married for a while. Matter of fact, come to me. I've been married 19 years. So you having some relationship marriage problem, come to me. I can maybe guide you in the right direction. Don't go to somebody that's just got married or never been married, because they're not going to have the wisdom that you need to get you where you need to be. You see, you have to choose wisdom, and you know what I'm saying, the wisdom will be there, but once you choose that wisdom, make sure you choose the right wisdom, but once somebody give you the wisdom, accept the wisdom. Like I said, I have people come to me and ask me advice all the time, and they have a situation, and I tell them exactly what they need to do to get out of the situation, and exactly what they need to do to avoid the situation. But every single time, I kid you not, every single time, they don't do the stuff I tell them to do, and they do the stuff I tell them not to do. And then, lo and behold, a couple of months later, a couple of weeks later, they right back in the same decision. Same situation, because they rejected the wisdom that was given. And see, this right here, I'll show y'all something. This is my Bible. This right here, this is nothing but wisdom. Nothing but wisdom. But how many of us really do take time and spend time in it? How many of us spend time and read it every day? Y'all know there's something I'm always hopping on. Read your Bible, read your Bible, read your Bible. The reason why I'm telling you to read your Bible, because I want you to have the wisdom. How many of us don't spend time in we'll spend time on social media. We'll spend time doing everything else except for getting in that word. And when you do that, when you spend time doing everything else, you spend time on Snapchat and Instagram and all that, and you don't spend time in your Bible, guess what you're doing? You're rejecting the wisdom that God gives us. That's why it's called the Bible. You know, they got the acronym, basic instruction before leaving earth. In other words, the wisdom you need to live a good life, a good godly life, to get the drama and the chaos out of life, it's all right here in these pages. But you got to be willing to accept it. You got to be willing to accept it. If you don't accept it, then it can't do nothing for you. You can read it all you want to. But if you're not going to accept it, if you're not going to put it into your heart, you're not going to use it, apply it to your life, then it's not going to do anything for you. And you got to understand. So, number 2, you have to choose to accept or reject the wisdom that you receive. So we see here it says Samuel put him in charge, but they was not like their father. And the fact that they were not like their father shows you that even though he brought them up to say, I have, and again, it don't say, because I know like sometimes when we talk about David and his kids, it said he never did like when he was dealing with Absalom. He said he never did discipline Absalom. It's, you know what I'm saying, he kind of mentioned that. And there was another situation where it was talking about somebody's child, and he said they didn't discipline that child. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't say that about Samuel, but just knowing Samuel, knowing, having the wisdom of Samuel and how he loved the Lord and the things that he did, it's hard for me to believe that he didn't try to raise them boys and to go the right direction. But they chose to reject that wisdom and live the way they wanted to live. And because of that, they're going to end up leading, being the reason for a whole nation end up going astray. So it says, but they were not, and that's just half of the verse said, but they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. So that's going to be number 3. So again, I told you there's a lot here. I'm just in the first 3 verses, and I'm already on point number 3. So number 3 is this. You have to choose what's going to take priority in your life. You have to choose what's going to take. It says they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. You have to choose what you're going to spend your time doing, what's going to be priority in your life. Again, I told y'all, what do you do every day when you wake up? You choose whether you're going to serve the Lord or you choose whether you're going to serve yourself. That's a choice that you have to make every single day. When you wake up every single day. Now, me, I make my choice before the day even starts. Because when I look at my day, like for instance, tomorrow, I already know I got work tomorrow. I got my Lost Sheep ministry tomorrow. Matter of fact, if any of my Lost Sheep people watching, if y'all didn't get the text, I know asking you got the text. But we're going to have our Christmas dinner tomorrow. So I know I got that tomorrow. So I know there's a certain amount of time that I already got set aside for that. Tomorrow is my day to work out. So I know I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. I already know that when after the dinner and I get back home, that's when I'm going to do my Bible reading. That's already set. You know, I already know when I'm going to get my prayer in. I know these things already. I've already made the plans to do these things. I already made the plans to set the time aside on my schedule to do these things. You know, but at the same time, I still got to get up tomorrow and choose to do them. I can choose to just cancel the meeting. I'm like, you know what? I know I'm supposed to do the meeting, but I ain't going to do it. I know I'm supposed to read my Bible, but I ain't going to read my Bible. I'm going to go do something. You have to choose what's going to be priority in life. If God is going to be a priority in your life, you have to choose that. It's not, like I said earlier in the introduction, it's not going to just happen. It's not going to, if we just take our natural, what we naturally want to do, we always naturally gravitate toward things that we're not supposed to be doing. We always naturally, because it's work. You know what I'm saying? A lot of time it's boring. And this might sound like it's boring reading the Bible sometimes. Right now, I'm in a boring section of the Bible. And I'm not afraid to say it. If you want to know, well, everything is important. It is important, but just because it's important don't mean it ain't boring. I just finished reading Leviticus, and now I'm starting Numbers as far as my personal reading. It's boring. It's a whole lot of rules and regulations and weird names that I can't even pronounce. All kind of numbers and senses that don't even make any sense to me. Again, I read it because it's in there, but it's boring. You know, and a lot of people that get to that part, and because it's so boring, because there's nothing exciting, they choose not to read it. But me having a close relationship with God is important in my life. It's my priority. And I know the only way I'm going to have that close relationship if I stay in His Word every single day. I make it priority. Today, matter of fact, me and my wife earlier, we was out doing a little Christmas shopping earlier. We were doing a little Christmas shopping, and I started noticing the time, at least, you know what I'm saying, at least 3 books. I don't like them. They're boring. And I'm pretty sure, actually, if you like anything like me, it's Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. All those books are boring. Every once in a while, some of them got a little bit of a story in there that make it a little bit interesting, but for the majority of the book, it's boring. And then when you get into the prophets too, like when I get into the prophets, some of those book of the prophets are boring. They're boring because these dudes are just saying the same stuff over and over, talking about how the Lord gonna destroy Israel and all that stuff that's already happened is just boring. So I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all. Like every time I get the Bible, I'm like, oh yeah, it's time to read the Bible. When I saw that, I'm like, oh man, I'm in Leviticus. You know what I'm saying? But I still read it because that's my priority in my life. My priority in my life is to get the Word of God in every day. I don't have to enjoy it. I don't have to enjoy it, but I do need to read it. I need to get it in me because it's important. You know, I told y'all before, I was talking to one young lady and I was getting her some advice and stuff, and she's like, man, I wish I could take your brain and put it in my brain and have that wisdom. And I said, you can. And she's like, how? I said, read your Bible. I said, the reason why I know these things I know, the reason why I'm able to tell you things I tell you is because of the wisdom I absorb from reading my Bible every day. I said, that's all you got to do, read your Bible every day. It's that simple. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. And again, yes, there's discipline, actually, but again, that's what I'm saying. You have to choose. That's why I say it's a choice. You have a choice. You have to force it. Like like I told you, I got to work out in the morning. Now, I've been working out for 5 years. Matter of fact, it's been it's been a little bit over 2 years that I haven't missed a workout. But I hate working out. I have to force myself to do it. See what I'm saying? I have to choose to get out of my bed, and I work out outside because the house we in is a little smaller than my old house, and the walls are really thin. So you do anything in the house, just everybody in the house can hear it. And I work out in the morning, so I don't be wanting to wake everybody up. So I have to work out outside. And y'all know right now it's like 30 degrees outside right now. A lot of time when I get up and go work out, it's frost on the grass. You know, but I choose to get up and work out to stick to my routine. And you got to do the same thing with God. You have to choose. You discipline. That's all discipline. We throw that word discipline around, and that's what discipline is. I know, as you said, discipline. That's what discipline is. Choosing to do what you're supposed to be doing instead of doing what you want to do. That's what discipline is. I know I need to get this thing done. I know I need to complete this activity. I know I need to read my Bible, even though I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? That even though I want to, you have to choose to do those things. That's what discipline is. Making the choice that you're going to do what you know you're supposed to be doing. And we have to do that. You have to choose what's going to be priority in your life. You have to choose to make God priority in life. It's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Miss Nikki, you've been here faithfully. I really appreciate you. Miss Alicia normally is here, but she had actually messaged me earlier, told me her kids were sick. So I'm gonna make sure I pray for her. Y'all pray for her as well. Her family is sick, and she said if she don't catch it tonight, she'll catch it later on. Which I have I have no reason to believe that she ain't. You know what I'm saying? She ain't gonna lie to me for no reason because she been faithful. You know what I'm saying? But y'all choose to be here on Monday. It's a Monday night. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you already hopefully you went to church yesterday. You already got your church in yesterday. You probably gonna go to church Wednesday night. But yet, you're still here tonight as well. You're choosing to be here because you're choosing to make God priority in your life. And y'all know every time I come over here, I always say I'm going to be quick and I end up being long-winded. Y'all know that, but yet you choose to come back because you want to have a close relationship with God. You feel that you're somewhere where you're getting some godly wisdom. And that's why you're choosing. And if y'all hear my voice, it's a little scratchy. I hope I have enough left to do the lost sheep tomorrow. But like I told y'all, man, I shared the gospel Saturday like 5 different times. It was insane. 5 different times I shared the gospel, but I was loving it. It was the first time, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, it was the first time I got tired of sharing the gospel, because it was like as soon as I finished with one, like I'd be on the last point and some other kids would pop up and they were like, well, we want to hear it, so I had to start back over. You know what I'm saying? So I shared the gospel, like I went over the gospel like 5 different times, but 12 souls got saved. You know what I'm saying? And again, and by the time I finished up, it was actually getting dark, so it was freezing. My hands were freezing. But again, I chose to stay out there so these kids can have the option to choose to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior. And luckily, most of them did. Like, although I don't think there was anybody that actually came over and heard the gospel that didn't make the choice to accept the Lord as their Savior. See, it's choices we have to make, and we have to meet. Matter of fact, that's what I told them. I said, now I know y'all are young, and you still gonna do some stuff, some knucklehead stuff. I said, but you still need to start choosing to try to have a relationship with the Lord. I always tell them that. Try to get you a Bible and start reading your Bible. You know, when your parents tell you to do something, do it. When your teachers tell you to do something, do it. Kind of thing. You know, start reading your Bible, do this. I say, y'all have the option to make the choice. Just because you're young, don't mean you got to wait. Because that's what we teach our kids. Oh, you young, go ahead and make all the stupid decisions now and go and get it out the way. You don't have to. You don't have to make stupid decisions just because you're young. If you know better, if your parents have taught you better, then do better. It was this guy, I forgot his name is Money to Grind, Hard to Grind, or something like that. I wish I knew his name so I could give him credit. But he got a son. He said, if I knew better, then he said, if I knew better, I would do better. He said, if I knew better, he said, and he basically said, I've been making all these bad mistakes because I didn't have the wisdom to make, making these bad choices, making these bad mistakes, because I didn't have the wisdom to make good mistakes. I mean, to make good decisions. He said, had I known better, I would have did better. I love it. It's actually a pretty cool song I just came across on Facebook one day, and I got it in my playlist. So if you know better, even if you're a child and you know better, don't choose to do the thing that you know you're not supposed to be doing and just, oh, well, I'm young and I can make this mistake. You don't have to, because like I said, it's some kids that made some mistakes that's going to determine how the rest of their life goes. It's some kids that have made bad decisions, made bad mistakes, and they're locked up for the rest of their life, or they locked up until they're 18. They're going to be locked up well into their adulthood. They're going to be locked up because they got to try them as an adult. So you got to be careful. Again, these decisions that we make are important. It determines how our life going to go. It determines what direction our life going to go. It determines whether we're going to have chaos in our life. And it determines what's going to be priority. You got to determine what's going to be priority in your life. When you get up every day, am I going to get the things done that God wants me to get done today? Or am I going to get the things done that my boss wants me to get done today? Or I'm going to get the things done my wife wants me to get done? What's going to be priority in your life? I'm going to get the things done that this world wants me to get done. What's going to be priority? You have to choose that. You're going to have to choose. You have to choose what's going to be priority in your life, the things of God or the things of this world. And that's the decision that you have to make every single day. And if you want to have the victory in your life, like we were talking about last week, if you want to have the peace in your life, that peace that passes all understanding, you want to have God's grace in your life, you want to have wisdom in your life, then you're going to choose the things of God. And by you choosing the things of God, it really shows that you really do have wisdom. But if you always choosing the worldly things, if you always going in the worldly direction, just like these guys was doing, then it shows you don't have wisdom. And you got to realize, when you have made those bad decisions, you're going to be an influence of other people to make bad decisions as well. And I'm only going to do one more point, so we ain't going to get to it tonight, but we're going to see how them making bad decisions is going to influence a whole nation to make a bad decision that's going to end up pulling them away from the Lord. But number 3 is you have to choose what's going to take priority in your life, the things of God or the things of this world. And we see here from these boys, the reason why, because that's why they was not like their father. Because it says, again, he said he chose them to be judges. So he made a bad decision because he only chose to be judges because they was his sons. He said, but they were not like their father. Why were they not like their father? So you see, so their father that wasn't him. He was about the things of God. God was priority in his life. They wasn't. He said, they were greedy for money. See, the dad, he wasn't greedy for money. He was all about the things of God, doing things the way God wanted. And we know that because we've been studying Samuel for the last couple of months. Matter of fact, we've been in this book of Samuel, this first book of Samuel, probably 2-3 months now. And we know every single time when it came to a situation of God or things of God, he always stood up. That's why he was Israel's leader. That's why he led them to the victory in the last chapter. But it says they were not like their father. They were not like their father. So again, they chose to reject the wisdom that their father had given them, and they chose, and that wisdom their father had given them was to make God priority in their life. And they chose to reject that, and instead of making God priority in their life, they made money and the things of this world priority in their life. And then the last one I'm going to go over, I'm going to finish just these first 3 verses, and I'm going to finish with this. He said, for they were greedy for money. He said they accepted bribes and perverted justice. So number 4 is this. There's another choice we have to make. We don't realize we do it, but it don't just happen because you're a good person. You have to choose. Number 4 is this. You have to choose righteousness. You have to choose righteousness because it's work. It's not going to just happen. You have to work to be a quote unquote good person. You have to work to be a godly person. You're not going to get touched and be a godly person, because God called me 19 years ago. You know what I'm saying? He touched me. I felt the spirit. Y'all know the testimony. If you ever read my testimony, heard my testimony, y'all know what happened. He called me 19 years ago. But guess what? I've only been preaching for 7. I only been preaching for, no. It's 9. I've been up here almost 9 years. So, right at 8. It's only been 8 years. Let's see. It was December. The first time I started preaching was December of 2014. So what's this 2022? So 8 years. So all right, 8 years. Matter of fact, it was Christmas Eve 2014, the first time I did my sermon, which was my testimony at the church that I'm at now. That was the first time. So I'm actually coming up on my 8-year anniversary of me actually starting preaching. But I've been serving the Lord for 19 years. See, you see what I'm saying? That's a what about the other 11 years? I had to choose to do the right. You had to choose right. It didn't just happen. I had to work to get to where I'm at. I had to, you know what I'm saying? I had to start at the bottom and, you know, learn. I had to learn to get into my Bible on a regular basis. I had to learn how to tell people the gospel. I had to learn how to go out and knock on doors and try to compel people to come in and get their life to the Lord. I had to learn how to do those things. It took some work. It took some sacrifices. I went from being the life of the party to never getting invited to the party now. I know normally about this time of year, with some guys, some people from my old company, that my first chemistry job that I worked at, they usually get together and have a little something. I haven't got an invite. I don't know if they had it and they just didn't invite me or they just didn't have it. I don't know. But normally they have something and they get an invite. You know, I had to make some sacrifices. I had to separate myself from the world. I had to separate myself from certain people. And I'm not saying be like the Amish and just go form your own little community and forget all the world and just us and us godly people. No, because you got to be, if you're going to do God's work, you got to be in the world. But be in the world. Don't let the world be in you. That's the thing. And when you have to choose to be, it's just an example, and I just get this from my pastor. He said, you know, a ship in the ocean, a ship's supposed to be in the ocean. When it's in the ocean, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in the ocean. He said the problem is not the ship is in the ocean. He said the problem don't occur until the ocean comes to the ship. Because if the ocean comes to the ship, what it means? It's sinking. You see what I'm saying? We supposed to be out in the world. I'm supposed to be out there in them projects. I'm supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, out there around people that still live in these world lives. I'm supposed to be around them people, but I got to choose to reject the life that they're living and only accept the righteousness. You know what I'm saying? I got to choose to take the righteousness to them and not let them, the darkness that they're living in, come into my life. I got to choose to be the light in their world and not let them be darkness in my world. You have to choose that. You have to choose to be. See, they was choosing, it says they accepted bribes and perverted justice. Their father didn't do that. They was choosing to do that. Their father didn't teach them that. Their father taught them to be godly men. He taught them to make God their priority. Everything they was doing that they're going to end up leading the nation away because they're doing it was things that they was doing because of the decisions they was making, the choices they was making. They was making the choices to reject this knowledge their father had gave. They was choosing to reject this foundation their father had laid. You know, I told y'all, with me and my kids, we do Bible studies every week. You know, every week we do a Bible study and we go through at least 3 chapters in the Bible every week. We try to do it every once in a while. We get so busy, which I hate having, but sometimes just with my kids working, they getting older now and working and all those kind of things. Sometimes the schedule just don't line up, and we'll miss. But whenever we miss, I'll write down that we miss, and we'll make it up on another week. Instead of doing one lesson, we do 2 or 3, whatever it takes to get caught back up. That happens. But the one thing I always tell them, like, because sometimes they like, oh man, this again. We go to church all the time. Look, all I'm doing is building the foundation. That's my job, to build a foundation. And just like I told each one of my kids, when y'all leave my house and start your own family, get your own house, then you can choose to use what I've given you. You can choose to continue to build on this foundation that I laid for y'all, or you can choose to go your own separate way. It's on y'all. But as long as you're in my house, like I said, like Joshua said, and for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So as long as you're in my house, we're going to serve the Lord. But once you get in your own house, you have to choose whether you're going to take that with you or not. You have to choose righteousness. It's not going to happen. And because it's going to take a lot of work. Like I said, you have to choose to reject that girl that's jumping in your inbox. You have to choose to reject that guy that's jumping in your inbox and stand faithful to the one you already got, stand faithful in your marriage. It takes work. You have to choose to do the right thing when the wrong thing is so much easier to do. And that's the thing. That's why people do so wrong. That's why it's just easier to do. I was talking to in fact, I was down in Memphis and I was talking to my brother. And he was just having some issues, going through some things. And I'm like, bro, this is what you need to do. Man, I'm like, this is all you got to do, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, man, I can't. Like, yes, you can. You just got to choose to do it. Because he's really bad. He's a hothead. He's really got anger issues. And he's one of those, man, you even look at him the wrong way, he want to fight. You know what I'm saying? And definitely if you say something about him, that's going to get him riled up. And he be doing this at work. And I'm like, bro, he just landed this good job. Like, bro, you got this good job. Man, you don't have time to be arguing with dudes in there because they said something sideways to you. Man, I can't let it slide. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can't just choose, man. You have to choose to just ignore it. Go your own separate way, bro. Like the only reason why they saying something because they want to be in the position you in. And when you give in to it because you're trying to prove how bad you are, all you doing, you're losing. You're giving them exactly what they want because you're going to be the one to end up losing. See, you have to choose that, and it's work. It's a lot of work. It's work to be righteous. It's not easy, especially in this world, to be righteous. What'd you say, Ms. Ron? Exactly. You got to be in this world, but you don't have to. And it's hard because the thing in this world pushes toward wickedness. You know what I'm saying? You're celebrated for wickedness. You know, look at the whole Kardashian family. I can't stand there. They're the epitome of what this country and this world has become. They have become up and become rich and famous off of wickedness. What did she do? What talent she had? She was naked having sex with doing, and then come to find out, her mom is actually the one that told her to release the tape. Actually, it was 3 tapes, and they said her mom watched the tape and told her which one to put out. That's insane. That's wickedness. They're the epitome of, I can't stand that family. I can't stand that family. Oh, it's the epitome of wickedness. You see what I'm saying? So it's so hard to be righteous in this world today when righteousness is what's rejected. Righteous, they talk about you when you're right. They cast you out when you're trying to do the right thing. They cast you out when you try to tell the truth. It's much easier to just live with the lie. Y'all remember I did a sermon a little while back. You know, hating the truth because you're loving the lie. It's much easier to love the lie. It's much easier to live the lie. It's much easier to do the bad thing because to be righteous is going to take some work. But you have to choose to be righteous. And most of us don't because it's so hard. There's so much work involved. We just rather just go our own separate ways and just do the easy thing and just give in to what the world wants us to do. And we don't realize how much we're truly losing out on when we make that decision. I'm sorry, y'all. That must be my body saying, hey, it's about time to end. My body clock. No, but we have to choose that we're going to be righteous. And again, we see some choices that these young men are making. And I wanted to get a little bit deep in it, but I knew, well, as long as that introduction was, that I wasn't going to be able to get too deep in it so y'all can understand where I'm going with this. But I am going. So I hope that y'all will come back next week. We're going to go in part. I knew it was going to be part 2, but it's looking like it might even be a part 3. But you know what I'm saying? But they're making decisions. And again, they're making a decision. They're being selfish. They're doing what they want to do. And they don't realize that the decision they're making is having influence on the heart and the mind of a whole nation. And because of them making these bad decisions, they're going to end up leading people away from the Lord. And that's going to be the beginning of the end. Matter of fact, before this paragraph is out, we're going to see the beginning of the end for the nation of Israel. Just as it's even really just getting started, is already on its way to its end because of the bad decision making of these young men. Because they chose not to be right. They chose, first of all, their dad chose to put them in a position without wisdom simply because they was his sons. Now, again, I'm pretty sure you're like, well, I raised them well, I've taught them well, they should do good, but they didn't. And the reason why is because they chose to reject the wisdom that dad had gave for them. And then they chose to make money their priority, and the money and the things of this world their priority than God. And then we see here, they chose to be unjust instead of choosing righteousness. See, they making these bad choices, and because these bad choices they're making, they're going to end up turning the hearts of the people away from God, and this is going to start the beginning of the end for the nation of Israel. So I'm going to stop right there tonight. Like I said, I just made it to number 4. I kind of figured that was going to happen, but if it's good to y'all and y'all see what I'm saying and y'all see some the importance of making decisions and you see how now that you really need to start thinking about the decision that you're making, make sure you come back next week. We're going to really get into it, get into a few more points. Make sure you come back next week because we're going to see they're going to make these decisions, and it's such a bad decision that normally, you know what I'm saying, a lot of times you make a bad decision, we don't realize that God always give a warning. I always call it like a warning shot. Like I'll be doing something that I know I'm not supposed to be doing, and something happened where I like almost get caught, or something almost bad happened, but it didn't. And I always call it the warning shot. God give me a warning, like, hey, you know, if you keep on down this path, you know, this thing's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he's going to do with them. He's going to kind of warn it. Is the decision they're going to make is going to be, the nation as a whole going to be so bad that he's going to give them a warning. And even with this warning, they're still going to decide to go the opposite way of the way that God tells them they should go because they lack wisdom. And that's why I said we're going to get to it. I know I didn't get to it to get really in the thick of it tonight. But please come back next Monday. God willing, next Monday, 7 o'clock. I'll go through some more points. And we'll see where I'm going with this. We'll see why it's so important that as you're making decisions, that you make sure before you make these decisions, you pray to God. Like I said, when I talk to my boys, they ask me now that they've humbled themselves and they made their bad decisions, they come to me now and try to so they can try to make good decisions. And they always ask me, God, Dad, where should I go? What should I do? And the main thing I always pray for them, I tell them, pray and ask God which direction you need to go. Ask God for the wisdom to make the right decision. Because I can tell you what I want you to do and where I want you to go, but none of that matters. What matters is what God wants you to do and what God wants you to go. And that's what we all should be praying for, the wisdom to make the right decision. That's one thing I pray for every day. Lord, give me the wisdom to make the right decision so I can get everything done I need to get done and get where I need to be according to your will for my life for this day. Because that is so vital. That's the only way you're going to truly have success in this life. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my end of the announcement before I keep on preaching. I really appreciate y'all for making the choice to stay here with Miss Nikki. And I know there's others that I can't see, but I can tell they're reacting, so they're still there. This thing works wacky. Like sometimes it shows who's there, sometimes it don't. But I just talk like the whole world is watching, because I hope the whole world will hear this and change their hearts and see the wisdom they need to make a better decision and choose to have a close relationship with God. So if there's anything in particular that you'd like me to talk about that I haven't talked about already, please inbox me and let me know. As of right now, the game plan next Monday, 7 o'clock, I'll be back. We're going to do part 2 of this lesson, the importance of choices and the importance of decision making. But if anything is on your heart and you're like, man, I really need to hear this, let me know. I can work it into my lesson plan. Nothing is set in stone. I try to give people what they need so they can build a relationship with the Lord. Keep sharing the videos, telling others about the videos as well. I appreciate y'all doing that. The views have been going up. And like I said, some people be watching and I don't even be realizing they be watching. That was my cousin. Like, she said, you don't even know. I'll be watching videos. You be helping me. You don't even know. That's a blessing to hear. And that's why I keep going. That's why I try to be. That's why I choose to do this. Whether like right now, I don't say anybody's here. But I'm still going. You know what I'm saying? I choose to be here doing this because I know somebody can get help from it, because it's the word of God and God's word never return in vain. So keep sharing the videos, telling people about it, tag them in. If it's somebody you know that need to hear these words, that may be going through some the very thing that we talking about and need to hear these words, tag them in it. I always keep my stuff public. Everybody, you can copy, paste, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. I put it out there and I just let God do his thing. Of course, if you're not 100% sure about salvation, please reach out to me and let me know, because that's the most important decision that's the most important choice you ever make, whether to accept the gospel or not to accept the gospel. That's the most important choice you ever made, because they have eternal consequences. So please, if you've never made that choice, you haven't never made that decision, please reach out to me and let me know. I'll schedule some time with you so we can go over the gospel with you and hopefully help you make that decision, so you'll know where you're going when you go through that door called death. And as always, if you need any kind of spiritual counseling, you have any kind of questions about the Bible, about what's going on in your life, anything, just reach out to me and let me know, and I will schedule time in my schedule appointment with you so we can get that done. And as always, if you want to go back and watch some of my old videos or catch up or rewatch some videos or something like that, this is my YouTube page. I put everything on my YouTube page after I get it done. I didn't get the last video from the last lesson. I didn't get that up yet because I had a busy Sunday. So I will probably try to get it downloaded next Sunday. But other than the very last videos that I did last week, all the other ones are on there. This is my channel, John God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries. Just type it in just like that, with a space between each one, and it will take you to my channel. Please subscribe and all those good things so you'll know every time I post a video. So I thank y'all for joining me tonight again. Thank you for choosing to be here. Some people have chose the peep in and get out, and some people chose to scroll past it, but y'all chose to be here, and I appreciate that. And I pray that as you watch this video and you really start to understand the significance of the decision that we make day in and day out, that you will start applying wisdom. First of all, ask God, go to God to get the wisdom, and start applying that wisdom to your life and the decision that you make, so you can get where you need to be according to the will of God. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pray, and I'm going to get out of here. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us tonight. Thank you so much for this wonderful lesson, Lord, that you put on my heart. As I read through this chapter, And the main idea is just choices. I'm seeing some choices that's being made. And even we ain't really get to, we just scratch the surface on it. We ain't get to the one big decision they're going to make here pretty soon. We'll probably get to go over the next lesson. But we're going to see how important these decisions are and how important it is to have wisdom when we make our decisions, because it can lead us, not only us, but everybody in our world. And really, essentially, everybody, depending on the decision that's being made, everybody in the world can be affected by it. And it can be affected by it and end up leading the world away from you down the dark road, plunging us all into a dark place where there is no light because you're not there. So we just actually just watch over us as we make our decisions. Give us the wisdom as we make decisions. We got Christmas coming up, Lord, so we pray we make the right decision about the way to spend our money and not go in debt, trying to make people happy with material things, Lord. Just help us all continue to make the decision every single day to honor and glorify your name and do the work you have for us to do. Just continue to shine your love and grace down upon us as we go forth and give us the want to make the right decision we need to make so we continue to serve you day in and day out. I pray you be with Miss Alicia and her family, Lord. I know she would have been here if it wasn't for her family being sick. So I pray you just keep your healing hands upon that house and help the house be healed and just give them the strength to continue to go forth and do the work you have for them to do. Watch over this ministry, continue to help it go forth and continue to grow, prosper, reach out to the community, change the lives of others, capture the lost souls of men, continue to use me, my family, my ministry members, and this ministry as a whole to honor and glorify your name, actively build your kingdom, and to turn the hearts of the people, the world back to you, Lord. Of course, I pray for the day when the world as a whole, we will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways so you can hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our land. And I pray you just continue to keep us encouraged so we can continue to go forward doing the work you have for us to do. Thank you so much for the night. Thank you so much for this lesson. Thank you for letting your spirit use me. And thank you for all those that chose to be here to hear this godly wisdom that you've given me. I love you so much, Lord. Thank you for everything, and pray you continue to give me wisdom to make the right decisions so I can also get everything done I need to get done, get wherever I need to be according to your will. Be with my voice, Lord. I got one more day of preaching, and so I pray that you give me strength to make it through. But even though, even so, higher to go, I just pray that I have the encouragement and make the right decision to just do the work you have me to do, however, wherever it is, however much voice I got left. I pray you just encourage me to keep going so I can do the work that can encourage people in your word. I love you so very much. Thank you for all you've done and given. Thank you for this wonderful lesson. And I say this prayer in your wonderful son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, man. Right there at the end, boy, he's just trying to give up on me. But like I said, I've been doing a whole lot of preaching, but it's a good thing. You know, I've been choosing to do it, and hopefully I'm gonna give me some lemon and honey and some. Try to rest up for the rest of the night and get ready to be with my lost sheep. So again, my lost sheep people, tomorrow night, Lord willing, we'll be at the church at 6. We're gonna have food. I don't know exactly what Red's cooking up for us. She's been cooking for the longest, so I don't know if she's gonna cook something, or we might just go out and buy something, might just get some piece of something. But there will be food. I hope to see y'all there. So until then, I love you all. Continue to pray for me as I will continue to pray for y'all. And again, man, just try to use wisdom from now on in every decision you make, because every decision you make can be an important, big decision, because even the small ones can turn out to be big ones in the end. So I love you all. I pray y'all would choose to be back here with me next Monday night at 7 o'clock, and we can do part 2 of that lesson. But until then, remember to always watch your back to pray. And I love you all, and stay safe. Peace. Oh, also, I won't see it be Christmas before I see you again. So I pray everybody have a Merry Christmas, and I'll make sure, pray that y'all will remember the reason why we celebrate, because we're celebrating the birth of baby Jesus. I love you all. Hope y'all have a Merry Christmas. Y'all have a blessed rest of your night. Peace.